started a dance group called Butterflies in Spirit. I started this dance group to get my missing aunts picture out there. That's where this idea first came about. I wanted to get my aunt's picture out there, my missing auntie Belinda Williams. But I also wanted to honor and remember my cousin Tanya Holick, who was murdered by serial killer Robert Pickton. So my cousin went missing in 1996, and then she was found on his farm. For some reason, I thought of dance, and I started this group 5 years ago, and it was supposed to be a one-time thing. And I got a few girls together, but what I didn't realize was other family members of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls would want to represent their loved ones. So we became a dance group of family members of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And at that time, the song that popped out at me was Beyonce's song, Who Run the World Girls. It was an empowering song to me for women at the moment. And we did our dance. We blocked off the busy streets of Granville in Georgia during the Missing and Murdered Women's Inquiry, and we did our performance. We sent a message that way, and then ever since we've done a few different dances, and the most recent dance is actually to JB's intertribal song, Sisters, which is a song about missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls, and I'll let her explain that song later. But when we got asked to do, to work on the music video with them, our choreographer, Madeline McCallum, created this other performance. So we, in that performance, we danced contemporary, hip hop, and traditional. I actually have to learn my own traditional dance, which I didn't know before because it was taken away from me. Because my mom went to residential school, so my culture was taken from me. So through performance, through Butterflies in Spirit, I'm actually learning my own traditional dances.
I've been in the music industry professionally since 1996. My business is primarily rap music, but I also write songs with guitar and stuff like that. And every studio you go to is guys, every record label you go to is guys, every gig you go to is run by guys, every meeting you take is guys. It's almost always white guys, and it's pretty overwhelming. As a woman, that doesn't even start to talk about how we are portrayed, but that's just the actual physical experience of trying to run a business inside the industry. So I'm very interested. I feel like my job as an artist is to make people feel beautiful, and that's always been my job, so that I take my job seriously. I have a movie that I made about the gender gap in the industry. It took me 4 years to make it, and it's coming out in Vancouver through Reel to Reel Film Festival in April. And so it's a deeper analysis of this, and we interviewed a lot of different people about their feeling, both women and men, about how they see the music industry, because if our job as artists is to empower other people while empowering ourselves, then it's the job of men to empower us in equal proportion to what we empower them and each other. So we interviewed a lot of men about this.
I would say, my experience when I went to when I studied audio engineering, I was one of 3 girls in a class of over 30, and of our year there was almost 100 students, and I think in that there was less than 10 of us that were in that whole year. So so when I'm in the studio, it's generally I was, maybe that session I would be the only woman in the session, and I found that there was more female artists that were brought in to be recorded behind, but not necessarily, not as technicians, as the artist, to be recorded, not running the session. So I don't know, it's interesting because I didn't, at the time, you just accept your reality the way it is. So it's like, oh, okay, this is how it is. But I didn't think about it until afterwards about how skewed that was. And I feel like I've always been treated quite respectfully. I mean, I felt like I had an advantage because I went to music school first. So in my class, I had already been introduced to Pro Tools. So for the first semester when we were in the studio, I was one of the only students that had an experience in Pro Tools, so I actually got to run the sessions. When I graduated from school, and then one of our dear instructors, he set up a volunteer gig for some of the students that were a little bit more keen, and I was the only female live engineer for any of those gigs. And I am an introvert, and I feel, confidence has been an issue for me, so sometimes I felt that, I don't know, this is probably just a projection of myself, where I didn't feel that people were as confident in my skills, but that might have just been because I didn't feel confident in them, and recently I just saw this article, it was an interview with this woman, and she was talking about how a lot of women aren't promoted by their managers because their managers don't think they're confident enough. And nothing to do with the fact that their skills, like they can be plenty skilled, but they don't project confidence. So she was giving tips on how to show confidence. Like it could have been that those women were very confident in their skills, but they weren't being perceived as confident, therefore they weren't given opportunities.
Women, when we've done studies, like psychological studies, on how people likability with women, and confident women are considered less likable. Like when you do cross studies, a confident woman is, stay away from her, she's confident. And that really affects how we give ourselves, because if we show we're confident, we're gonna get hit from the other side or from behind if we show confidence. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
And when I'm in like different ciphers, I actually like transform the room because of my female energy, and it's like almost not like commanding, but like also just saying like, I want men to be better. And when I am in a cipher or a freestyle, I'm like, we need to delete the words bitches and hoes. And because I want you to be better. I want you to talk about something that's more creative, because when you go to words like that, that's easy to go to. When it's easy to go to violence, it's easy to go to swearing. So I want you to improve yourself, and I want to improve myself. And when I surround myself with that energy, it just like recycles, and then everyone is better. You know what I mean? So it's been a really cool journey. Like Indigenous people all around the world, why they connect to hip hop so much is because of those elements are in each of our Indigenous cultures. So it was because I lived in city centers, I was able to grasp into hip hop. And then that was the direct conduit into practicing my own culture. So now today, like I have my own regalia, I made my own regalia, I cedar weave, I bead. And it was because of these elements that showed me that I am a creative person. So I can apply that to my own traditional self of creativity. So it's been such a cool, amazing journey for myself, and to be able to, like, for the song Sisters, I didn't just like want to make a song about missing and murdered Indigenous women, because in the last couple years, like 2 to 3 years, it's become this hashtag, and it's become this thing to talk about. And for me, I wanted it to be empowering. I wanted it to bring awareness, and I wanted it to be humanizing, because I feel like sometimes in the media, it really dehumanizes missing and murdered Indigenous women, saying like they're sex trade workers, they're addicts, they live on the downtown east side, or, you know, they're responsible for their own death. And that made me so angry as a young person, as a young woman, saying like, no, not all of us are like that. And if you actually knew why people are in those unhealthy behaviors, is because of colonization and residential school. So for me, the subject of sisters, like I've waited 10 years for the song, because I wanted it to be like super, like I wanted to just honor the story, take care of the story. I just didn't want it to be like I'm capitalizing on this one issue, and I'm, you know, I really wanted to take care of it, and it was such a powerful experience.
Hi everybody, my name is Rup Sidhu. Most everybody knows me as Rup. I am grateful to be here with you all today. First, I just want to diffuse a couple of things. You know, sexism, patriarchy has existed for a long time. And I feel like mainstream levels of music are endemic of that patriarchy, spreading its nasty tendrils through all of society. So as much as the mainstream hip hop and where it's gone and images that we see, I really want to see the roots of that being placed properly, not in the hip hop community, but in a patriarchy that exists and has existed for a long time before that. And likewise with techno, our hip hop, and at the same time, both of those styles of music are in other places, not when we're attaching it to capitalism and patriarchy and putting it into those systems. It is creating beautiful levels of resistance and space for young marginalized women's voices as well. Now, when we talk about the mainstream of the music industry, this is an interesting thing because I've avoided it my whole life because of these things. I am not a staunch capitalist, although I have to live in a capitalist society, making, like, I can't even remember the last time I pressed a CD to sell to anybody. No judgment on anybody who does that, of course, but it's always been an industry that has made me feel like pushing it away and creating music on a community level, and being, like, the majority of work that I do in music right now. I work up the road here at the Sarah McLaughlin School of Music, which is a free music school for inner city youth. And then when I find myself touring, mostly these days, I'm touring in schools and touring various different communities throughout the country. So as far as like what we need to change the music industry, I mean, I don't think the music industry is changing until industry itself changes. And we step away from the paradigms of capitalism and patriarchy, and we start to recognize what the healthy benefits for us in moving forward into the future really are, in really starting to, like, I don't know, pick apart how capitalism has that trickle-down effect and how it is weaved in with patriarchy, and whenever it's going to end up touching, whatever art form it's going to end up touching is going to end up falling into those tendrils, because those tendrils run long and they run deep. So I have no solutions aside from, like, looking at what the actual roots of this are, and to me those are a lot of the roots, and where those exist are in that kind of hetero-capitalist patriarchy paradigm that exists, that seems to feed all this ugliness into our society.